Hello everyone and welcome to another Sport Creation Weekly Request. In last week's poll, you had all voted for the Red Death from How to Train Your Dragon 1 to be remade. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and look at a previous one I made here back in 2015, I think. Probably about between 2014 and 2016 was when I made this. And I vividly remember back then not being particularly proud of it, but not knowing how to improve on it since. Hopefully by now, a couple of years later, we can do a bit of a better job. So, let's go ahead and check this one out first then before we get started, and see what basically needs fixing. So for a start, the body itself is not too terrible, it's all a bit wonky and not very aesthetic. The claws are utterly garbage, you can just see by the animation and the great big bumps on the bottom there. It has all these little pathetic individual red spikes everywhere, I'm not really sure what that's about. I mean, it has red spikes, sure, but a lot more than that. I'm not even sure why I bothered with those, actually, looking back on it. The crest here is not only wrong, but very, what's the word, inefficient. Very expensive. I think I could probably budget that a little bit better. And the overall mouth, the mouth was the big thing I remember struggling a lot on. Because I wanted to get the overbite. I wanted to get all the teeth. I wanted it to animate. And all these things didn't really work out together. You can't really do, you know, a big underbite with the teeth poking out with the animating. Spore just isn't really good for it, just the way the teeth float. So I may have to redo this with a inanimate mouth, which I know is a bit of a not a lot of people like that kind of thing, but at the end of the day, you know, if I want to try get the creation to look exactly like the real thing, sometimes I have to sacrifice a bit of animation, especially around the head. The nostrils are just very, very silly looking, and the eyes, when it walks around, the eyes kind of wobble. Yeah, you kind of see that. In fact, is that a limb? Did I really add a limb there? Yeah, wow, I did. Okay, so I clearly gave absolutely no crap about animation when I made this, which is ironic considering the mouth. Right, so that is the previous version. Let's go ahead then and make ourselves a brand new Red Death. Right, so Red Death. How am I gonna do this? Can I find a good... Ah, there we go. Right now, on my other monitor, I just have a bunch of images of the Red Death on Google. That way, I can have some good references for the body shape. Now, I'm going to go with the, you know, very typical quadruped as it is. Very, very large, heavy thing. In fact, it's going to be a little bit tricky. It's got a very unusual frame. In fact, this is actually a thing I've noticed. I've been watching a lot of How to Train Your Dragon recently. Been watching a lot of the movies. And, by the way, third movie. Amazing. Anyway, and I've noticed that the Leviathans, the really large ones, like the Red Death, like the Bewilderbeast, they actually have really odd anatomy. They're very, very long and not actually that chunky for their size, and it's just odd. So it's really difficult to kind of translate that into Spore, as you can imagine. So that's a bit of all that so far. I'm going to have it rearing its head up ever so slightly. Let me see, I need to kind of define that bit there, so that's the chest, that's the head kind of pointing upwards. There you go, that's a little bit more like it. Have the hips a little bit higher as well, kind of like that. As I said, it is really, really odd how they all are. If you guys ever look back on the second movie, in one of the later scenes where Drogo's Bewilderbeast is kind of like climbing up above the, what was it, it's reared up on its hind legs and is kind of attacking the ice mountain. You see just how tiny the belly is on the torso compared to the rest of its frame. It really is odd. At least to translate into things like this. So that's just a start for the tail there. Let's go ahead and stabilise with the limbs, and there we go, do that. Right, so that's the general thing so far. The base of the tail is really, really thick, but it does kind of point out quite dramatically as far as I can tell. I can always come back and reverse that later. Now then, the legs. The big old trademark chunky legs that all How to Train dragons have. So, got something like that going on there. Very stubby, very pudgy. Like that. Right, do I want to have the same limb or do I need a different one? I think I'll try this one here. It's got a bit of a slightly different shape and everything. No, that's not going to work. We'll just go with this one then. There you go. So, kind of do that. Just make sure everything's kind of the way I want it to be. I have that a little bit higher, a little bit more to the left. And there we go. And so for these ones, I think I will actually go ahead and have one more foot. Just like that. Or not a foot, sorry, a limb. Just like that, so we can define things just a little bit better. So it does have a bit of an ankle, it's just kind of oddly hard to spot. So let's try that then. Well, now it looks really silly, doesn't it? Ah, the joy of trying to make custom feet. So if only we had these feet by default. Then again, it'd make my job pitifully easily. Pitifully easy even, not easily. I do like a bit of challenge in these. Right. Let's do that again then. So I'm actually going to make it a lot smaller this time around. A lot smaller, but a lot wider. Now it's actually more toe-like in a way. So kind of like that. Well, I say that is then going to make it a lot harder for me to place these, isn't it? Let's try again. It is very, very likely that I am just overcomplicating this. It would not be the first time. It won't be the last time. There you go. That works quite okay like that. Yep, good. Right then. Can we do that all around? Have one there. Now, this is not the most efficient method when it comes to complexity. This is quite expensive, of course. But it's one of those more subtle things I think are kind of a little bit more required. It just looks a little bit better, in my opinion, when the feet actually make some sense. Or look a little bit more like the creature. Because it really is one of those details where, you know, if the feet are a little bit off, well, you know, who will notice? Well, actually, you won't necessarily notice it, but you will, unless it's, you know, a dinosaur. People have ridiculous hawk eyes for dinosaurs, but otherwise, for other things, you just sense that something is off, that something isn't right, and that sense alone can be enough to kind of, you know, discourage the rest of the model. I guess that's good enough for now, then. Yeah, I quite like that. It's a little bit funky, but I quite like it. Now then. Back to the side profile again, let's get the arms in place. And the arms, I won't need the additional limb there. Just this should work. Let me see. It's got a bit of a broad stance from what I can tell. So kind of like that. Make all that a little bit chunkier. Move that to the side, there you go, like that. I will be honest, I haven't really been creating very much in Spore recently, so I am going to be a little bit rusty. So a couple of things may look a little bit off, or I might be taking a little bit longer than usual. It's just how it goes, isn't it? Like, whenever you stop drawing for a while, you always get that little bit of rust. There you go. I think that's looking kind of okay. Now, it's looking very thin, which I'm not liking, but I think that's just a lack of musculature so far. It kind of is how it looks like. That's the annoying thing. It feels off in the creation, but this is how it looks in the reference. It's just something really is strange about How to Train Your Dragon anatomy. They are often just a little bit different, and I really just can't put my head on it or my finger on it. But we'll keep going. Right, so as I said, let's add a bit of musculature then. Let's add a little bit around the arms first. I think that's going to be where a lot of the mass is around the front half. So it's got like a bit of a major area here. The shoulder blades, of course. Make those quite chunky, I reckon. Not that chunky, actually. There you go. More like that. Coming down here, kind of like a bit of a pectoral thing going on. Not anything massive or dramatic, but again, just adds a bit of extra mass. In fact, that actually looks... So, I like how it looks, but I do not like that great big angle at the front there. But, again, that is kind of what it has already. It's not far off. I think I might need to even it out throughout the neck later on. That's what I'll try doing. Now then, around the legs, the very, very chunky legs, we will have... Can I have that? Would that work? Let's give something a go here. Let's go ahead and pull all of that back by about 3 vertebrae. Let's move that all the way to the end, like that. Really tiny hips. And then pull that in. So now it has kind of messed up where everything is. And it has actually made it quite a bit fatter. Okay, that's awkward. Wait, it looks there, right. So exaggerate the hell out of it then, like that. No, that's not quite that far. It is really finicky doing this. Sometimes, okay, so it worked fine this time around. Sometimes when you scale the vertebrae while it's partially inside the tail, sometimes it'll pop out of place, sometimes it'll be perfectly fine. I assumed it was going to pop out of place, ended up being fine. So that actually made my little struggle there significantly easier. You don't know that until you try though, that's the thing, and I nearly skipped trying entirely because I just assumed otherwise. Right. That's looking a little bit better actually. So now that we've got that bit there, can I try again smoothing it all out? Adding just more mass? Let's see. Come on, make that bit there a lot larger. Don't know what happened there, but the size is completely skewed out. There we go. I have a feeling that this is going to take some serious trial and error. So I'm now bringing up another image or another perspective of the Red Death, where I was looking down on the characters, and from what I can tell, so I ended up being a little bit right about the whole pectoral muscle area, but I think it needs to be a little bit more. There is a bit of a definition. Let me see if I can make that a lot smaller actually. Let's make that smaller, make that a bit larger. We'll hide the base inside there. And basically its shoulders, or the way it all connects, is just much rounder. Now if I can try and embed that into the neck, I might be able to kind of make a bit of a similar-ish thing going on. Kind of like that. From the front, it does not look very good, but from the back here, it actually looks quite spot on. So I can do that again then. Keep that one where it is. And then have that kind of meet down the middle, but subtle. Let me see, kind of like that. Yeah, it just looks a little bit better. Still not perfect, but I'm still really not quite sold. Oh, actually, that there looks a lot better. What I may is compare it. Yeah, that's a lot better. What I may need to do though is add like another section entirely for the chest, because now that I look at it from this other perspective, the chest is very defined. In fact, can I just use this piece here for it? If I do that, pull that out slightly. It only needs to be subtle. Kind of like that. Now that looks really odd, but I'm hoping it'll look better when textured. I mean, we can always just remove it later if it doesn't look right, but that's the thing I'm going for currently. I'm definitely... like, it doesn't look anything like it, does it? And yet, when you compare it, so like all the movie artworks and such, all the screenshots, it actually is like that. It's wrecking me, man. It's really wrecking me. I guess one thing's for sure, actually, it does have a lot more of a crooked back. Kind of like around here, it just kind of bends in a very dramatic way. I'm always so focused on making pre-made wings that actually these ones here aren't really that far off. Yeah, they're really not that far off. Like, I don't like using pre-made wings. They tend to just look really awkward, but these ones are actually kind of forgivable. If I kind of have them folded sort of downwards like that, yeah, they're really not that different, but they do have like that same, you know, kind of curving in feature. And this will allow me to have a lot more budget in other places in the creation, because things like the crest and the millions and millions of spikes down the body, these are things I'm actually going to need a lot of complexity for. So I guess I'm really not that big for it, but this may work. What I will do, however, because the base of the wings are very, very chunky, I am going to have to go ahead and add some limbs anyway to try and compensate for that. Animation-wise, I'm not really sure how this will work out. I think it may just have like a couple of floating limbs. Let's try it then. So we do that, for example. Connect that together. Oh, actually, that's slightly larger size there. Oh, actually, that looks really odd. Let's shrink that significantly. There you go, just have that connect at the end of there. Have that a little bigger. There we go. Kind of like that. I'll lower that down. Actually, I think that's already spot on. That's not terrible. And then have the smoother here to kind of smoothen the base of the wings into the shoulder blade and everything else. You know, that musculature and such. Have it like that, and then as it is in the movie, that really just kind of, yeah, tapers out like that. It definitely not the worst. As I've been saying, this creature has really, like, when you look at it closely, the anatomy is really strange. In fact, I'm looking at one, wow, I never noticed this before. I'm looking at one image now, in fact I'll show you, and how right there, the skin just stretches all the way into, basically, like, just next to the elbow. Like, that is some very, very stretchy skin there. So I guess that kind of works, to be honest. I actually quite like that technique. I might use that technique more often. Interesting. So, next up then, I want to do the head. The head has always been the most tricky thing because it is a very unique shape. I'm wondering actually, straight off the bat, how would this work? Would this work? I don't think I've ever actually used this part before. But it just suddenly just occurred to me that this could actually work as a really nice base for jewels. In fact, let's a quick little demonstration. Or, experiment. Wow, yeah, look at that! That is not a bad pre-made head if you want like a really big underbite. Well, there you go then, creation done. No, I really don't mind that. Let's go ahead then, change my images again, that way I've got more, there you go, make it a little bit of a better size. And this way I'll be able to get all the teeth in place as well. Like, that's what I wanted to have the teeth this time around. I don't think I had any teeth in the previous one. Now then, teeth. Normally I'd use the keratin horns. For this, I'm going to use the death spikes instead. Just because, again, budget. Simple reason is that I just want to have the better budget. And therefore using less parts per feature. Right, so that is the bottom of the jaw for now. I may need a bit more work on it in a bit, but that's going to be it for now. For the top of the jaw, I think, actually, I'm going to use this piece. Will this work? If I move it, there you go, switch it backwards around. Pull that downwards like that. That could definitely work. I quite like this actually, this is an interesting new technique. It may not be the neatest, but with a bit of practice, this could work out quite nicely actually. And I think I'm going to make her with her jaws closed. Which, again, isn't necessarily ideal, but I think it's, you know, kind of the best that we can do. Oh, actually, I say that. Maybe I could have it just a little bit open. Let me see. Let's move that off to the side, actually. I'll keep it closed, now that I think about it, but I need to add some more teeth at the front here. So I have that there. And so now I've just got these awkward teeth at the front there. Which kind of look really daft. Damn it. These really are so tricky to do. I think I think my hand's been forced then. I will have to use some keratin horns, which is going to be costly. But I don't think there's much more I can really do in this scenario. We could do a little bit more of the teeth later on then, I guess. Let's add this piece. Where is it? I know I'm looking for, but I can't find it. There it is. This one here. This will be perfect for the nose if it would snap. Okay, it doesn't want to snap then. How about this one here? That snaps. Good. This is just as good then. So that could be the big nose part. Like that. I just realised it's actually a really good way to make a death chin. As in, like, death wing. The bottom jaw there is pretty spot on for it. In terms of just a head alone, this is definitely a significant improvement to the previous one. I'm not really quite sold on the other features yet. I still think the body is really odd, but that could just be me me struggling with it. But the head is definitely already much better than the previous one. The nose is quite a bit thinner actually. There you go, like that, and pointed upwards along the horn protrusion thingamabob. Actually, it's heavier on the top, so I'll turn the whole thing upside down then. And move it up like that. Right, so there we go. I'm definitely much preferring how this is coming out. I think overall, I'm just being a bit hard on myself. I do prefer this dramatically. It just looks like there's more to look at with this one. The crest is going to be a bit tricky. I may have done it very inefficiently before, but I'm not actually sure how I can do much better now that I think about it. For a start, I might use these as a base. Although they might not be flat enough, that's the thing. Oh, actually, yes, they can be flat enough. Excellent. So we'll have that bit there for a start. Let me see, can I have it a little bit more like that? That's okay, I guess. It's like another one on top of it and have it kind of come out like that. The eyes are remarkably simple. I think for the eyes, I'll just use these. No need to overcomplicate this process. I think these will just work perfectly, to be fair. So we had the one eye down there, very close to the nose, from what I can tell. If I can select it again. Yes, there we go. So we've got one large one that's just down there. Kind of looking forward as well. Like that, I guess. Then have another much smaller one. Like about half the size. And then even another one that's even smaller still. Which will be up there. Yeah, much better. Definitely I'm liking this a lot more. And how's the animation? Is it still okay? Yes, it's not all snapping out of place like it did last time. It's not perfect, but it's not, you know, horrifically bouncy and out of sync like it was last time either. I do think this is acceptable. I guess actually this bit here might just do the trick. Yeah, I think this will work actually. It'll be a bit uniform, which is not what I want, but I think, again, given Spore's limitations, I think this will probably give us about the closest to what we can get. And it'll be significantly better on the budget as well. If I can make 3 spikes for every part, instead of, you know, 1 for every part, that'd be really ideal. So have a little bit out like that then, just kind of randomly jutting out, just like the real thing. And have some more down here jutting out as well. Make that a bit a lot smaller as well, actually. In fact, that one could be pointed a little bit more like that. It's a bit wild. This definitely is a lot more wild. But I think it's just gonna, again, for the game's limitations, I think this will aesthetically look a lot better than the attempt I had last time. So the attempt was very washed out. The textures were not consistent at all. And it just looked weird. Very flat, very boring and blocky. I think this one, while still not technically accurate or perfect, I think it's just gonna be more acceptable. Yeah, there you go, something like that. I think that's okay actually. It definitely does give me some massive Triceratops vibes though. But I think that is better. Right. How is the tail on this end? It's got like a big club tail, doesn't it? Can I find a better image for that? Aha, I actually have found one. Good. So the tail is, yeah, it's actually really just suddenly thin. Now I look at it again, so it kind of goes like this. So I guess in my other creation I wasn't quite wrong with the way it flows. I think I will do it like this actually. Yeah, just have it bend downwards and then back up. I think that just, like, for a Spore creation, that just looks a little bit better. But it does indeed just get, like, abruptly very thin after the initial thicker base. So like that, and then for the good old classic part, let us grab, I think it's this one is the one I'm going to want for this, or maybe even that one. I think that one might be better. Let me see, can I like dull out the spikes? Oh, I can actually, I can. So it's basically just like this for the club. It's really as simple as that. You know, as nice as it is to overcomplicate it sometimes, in this case it's just not necessary even. It's really that simple. Right then, now for the spikes. I'll go the same the same part as I've used with the crest, and I'll be using these for all the spikes. That way, just adds like that bit of consistency. It's going to be a bit hard though, actually, getting them around the neck, or around the wings, excuse me. In fact, this is the part now where I worry I won't have enough parts to do this. Because it is a lot of spikes going down the base of the neck, all the way down the spine, all the way down to the tail. And also, it not looking really messy either. I think it's going to look messy. Then again though, I guess that is another thing. When you look at it close up on the movie model, it is kind of messy. So again, it's like one of those little things I just have to make do with. I do have to move the wings out slightly actually. So I can put that there. Like that. Move that back over there. There we go, that's okay. Yeah, I like that. And then we'll just do the rest of the spine then. So, before we check up and see the final result of our Red Death recreation, let's check out this week's weekly request. I've gone ahead and added a couple of old ones from previous ones, as well as a couple of new ones. So we have the Radosaurus, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, from last week's weekly request. As I've been doing, I'm trying to have the second highest voted to give it a second chance. So there's that one. The Spinosaurus Cod Hybrid, which has been appearing a lot lately, so let's give it another go. A Demogorgon Enderman Hybrid, which was a very interesting one, suggested just randomly in the comments a couple of days ago. Disifiroa. I can't say these names. From Monster Hunter, very cool one suggested within my Discord server. And Kiro from Blind Forest, which is... I added that one in. It was another older one from a previous weekly request a long time ago. I've added that one in because I thought it'd be a bit of a nice contrast and it'd be a cool one to do. That way, you know, to try and have like a bit of a variety between all the different ideas and suggestions. So, as always guys, top right hand corner, click on the little eye thingamabob, and you'll see the poll there and vote for your favourite one to be made next week. Now then, after the many spikes added onto our Red Dragon, or Red Death, let's check out how she looks now. In my opinion, this is looking significantly better. I've concluded I really was a bit hard on myself when it came to the anatomy in the body. I think now that everything's put together, it's textured, it's finished, I actually think it looks pretty damn good. I quite like it. And I have forgotten to turn the shaders on. How can I be doing this? So here we go then. Here is her in her actual, you know, final state. I went ahead and removed the bit of a dip that I had, or the pointy calosphere I had around the chest. It just looked really odd at the end. I think it looks quite okay now, quite acceptable. The spikes, I just went ham. Just did basically what I could see was in the creation itself. I was able to add a couple of the red spikes along the sides. They're definitely not perfect, but again, for what Spore can handle, I'm actually pretty happy with them. We got like a decent amount. You can see what it's trying to suggest. It's, you know, clearly a very spiky creation, a very spiky dragon, so I like how they came out. Claws are not as dark as I would have liked, but they are, in terms of the general appearance and curvature and stuff, I think it's good for what we can handle. And the teeth, I've added a couple more extra teeth and it really does, again, tie together the face perfectly. The wings, I'm still not 100% sold with. Again, I think I'm just being hypercritical to myself, but I like how they are, I just don't know if they're right. That's the only thing. But then, when I compare this to the previous creation, yeah, it's a big improvement. I'm really happy about this. I'm happy I've finally come back and fixed her because, as has been with a couple of my older How to Train Dragon creations, a lot of them are just really outdated. It could be a lot better, such as the Deadly Nanda, the Gronkle, those two in particular were terrible. And when I remade them, they look significantly better. So I'm happy to have finally given her some attention. It's been long overdue. And now I'm wondering, do I want to give the Builderbeast a third try? I think it might be required. So then guys, as always, I hope you enjoyed it. I really hope that you like the new version. I'm much happier with it now. I really am. Especially now that it's all done and finished. And as always, if you want to check out the next poll, top right hand corner, keep those suggestions coming. I'm always checking them out. I'm always trying to include as much as I can. Again, I am just one person, but I do try to handle as many of them as I can and try to stretch, you know, over a decent variety. So keep them coming. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll catch you all next time. Cheers.